We are marching right along in the prelude of the X-Tinction agenda. Now, if you're just joining us, last issue, we were just introduced to Genosha. So issue 235 is the first appearance of Genosha for those of you who are curious. This is 236, Uncanny X-Men busting loose. Last issue, the X-Men went looking for Jimmy Ransom and Moira McTaggart and found out that they were essentially kidnapped by the Genoshan government. And at the end of the issue, spoiler alerts, Rogue and Wolverine were captured by the press gang, which are the people that find runaway mutants and essentially uses like a dial-up modem to transport them via phone lines and whatnot back to Genosha. This is the Citadel, headquarters of Genoshan State Security. Rogue and Wolverine have just arrived. As is plain to see, they are not terribly pleased to be here. And I just love the way we open up with Wolverine and Rogue just ripping through these Genoshan magistrates. This is Chris Claremont writer, Marc Silvestri penciler, Dan Green inker, Petra Scotese, I think is how I pronounce that, colorist, Tom Orzechowski letterer, Bob Harris editor, and Tom DeFalco, I like how it says magistrate. That's just funny. And these guys cannot figure out why they're not able to take these two down. Who are they? Where do they come from? Don't know, sir. Pipeline of the press gang just motored them in from Australia. And why did he use a sedate program on them first? He did, sir. It didn't take. There's only two of them, for heaven's sake. We're outnumbered. The muties better than 10-1. Ain't enough, sir. Fall back. They try to slam these blast doors. Don't hear anything. Where are the reinforcements? On their way. Hey, maybe they decide to give up. Slunk. Yes, again. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this is 1988, so we have not yet got Barry Windsor Smith's Marvel Presents Weapon X arc, where it shows Wolverine ripping through Weapon X to get to Professor Cornelius. So I just love how that we see Logan using his claws to rip through these still enforced doors, and then of course Rogue tearing through them just like it's tissue. She goes, "Cute stunt, leaving our clues behind in the process. You're going nowhere, Gene Shook." That word sounds like an insult, fella. By the way, y'all should be careful about who you get grabby with. Cost you. I'm absorbing their psyches. No powers, though. These are normal folks. Now, before they can go any further, they run into a mutant who works for Genosha and essentially wipes out their powers. Kind of like, is it Artie from the Morlocks who can negate powers? It's sort of like that. But anyway, now we kind of cut away to elsewhere on the island because for the rest of the world, everyone like envies Genosha. And one thing that I love about these older comics, now remember, this is back before digital was really a thing, so these are all hand drawn. And just look at the vibrance and the colors and the work of the anatomy to make it look realistic, but still has that comic book flair. We are now at the home of the Gingineer, who essentially turns the mutants into what they call mutates. And he's constantly on call. And he's like, "No rest for the wicked, huh, Dad?" As the Americans say, with great power comes great responsibility. And no days off. I'm sorry, Philip. I know you're looking forward to it. He's like, "Hey, no problem. I'm used to it." So we kind of get a moment, like an actual, like at first when you're reading it, it's weird. Because you're like, why are we really caring about the Gingineer and his son? But then this jet takes off with the Gingineer take him to work, scorches the ground, and goes typical magistrate style. Never uses a driveway when you can trash someone's yard. And so we see this guy come over, garden hurt. Fix it. Will you, boy? Fix good, boss. Fix good as new. And so we see that even though things seem normal for regular humans, mutants are essentially just slaves. And we learn more about the Gingineer, and it's twisted. I love this particular panel. It says, in a matter of minutes, the car reaches the heart of Hammer Bay on the island's west coast, Genosha's capital, sometimes called the most dynamically modern city on Earth. So even though we see that there's something really wrong, I just love how Silvestri and the art team here got this very futuristic, almost kind of still has a retro kind of flavor to it. Beautiful work. And so the Gingineers brought up to speed about the two mutants. And what's terrible is they bring them to Rogue's quarters. Chief, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with her? She's been like that since we took her captive. I'm afraid some of my officers took a few liberties when she was being processed. What they thought was fun, she evidently felt was something else. Those responsible who have been disciplined. It won't happen again, sir. If it does, Chief Anderson, you'll answer for it. So Rogue doesn't have her powers, and so people are touching her, and she just basically um, escapes into herself. And we'll get more into that. Now, the Genoshans that fought the X-Men last issue, they got arrested in Sydney, and so the press gang go to break them out. There's Punch Out, who's kind of like a strong woman. We got Pipeline, who uses technology to modem people across the world via internet connection. And then this guy's name is Hackshaw, I think's his name. But anyway, before the press gang can get to the Genoshan people, our X-Men come in via Gateway. And they go, oh, the wall! They're the mutants we fought! As usual, my friend, Gateway has teleported us precisely where we need to go. You here to finish us off, Gene Joke? Do not tempt me. That word, Gene Joke, I do not like it. Makes us even. I don't like you. Good. That will make this more pleasant. I require information about our missing friends. I won't talk. You will not have to. Psylocke is yours. And I love how they used to use Psylocke's powers like that butterfly form. Like, it's overly used nowadays, in my opinion. But back then, it was just something cool to express her powers against like how they'd usually draw Jean or Xavier. And I love the way that Claremont uses the wordplay here. Wrench of dislocation. Casting of self into shadow. Dancing gaily on the edge of infinite abyss. Psychic armor wrapped as tightly about her consciousness as it is her physical counterpart. It is about her body. There are defenses, easily bypassed. Fear traveling hand in hand. As she marvels at her mutant ability. Touch another's innermost being. While simultaneously dreading to the depths of her soul what she'll find there. And even though this is horrendous subject matter, it is gorgeously done. And this is a great use of color theory. The very kind of like blood-esque, almost purples, her light purple for her powers, the regular purples, just to kind of get an idea. And then the skulls with the mutants that the magistrate has manipulated into slaves. It just encompasses everything that is Genosha right here. And it makes Psylocke pull back. Butchers! May you rot for what you've done. Now may you burn. Mercy! And what you have shown, magistrate, you so-called upholders of the law. To the mutants you've enslaved and tortured and slain. Psylocke, stop, for pity's sake. You could kill these men. No, Colossus. That would be too quick. Too easy. And I love how once they went out into the outback, they've had to kind of learn to survive. So both Elizabeth and Storm, and even Peter, as we find out, become a lot more hardened. Wolverine. Now we go back to the Gingineer's son. I have no idea what his name is. But he's just running. And then all of a sudden we see all these police forces coming down his neighborhood. And he's like, whoa, magistrates. A fast retcon strike team. I've never seen one before. In this neighborhood. Oh, this is nuts. I'm hallucinating. It can't be. That's Ginny's house. And those are her folks. Why are they arresting her whole family? So we find out that Ginny Ransom was essentially his fiance. And he kind of gets a brief glimpse of how the magistrates are as cruel and not as much upholders of the laws. It kind of starts to make him waver a little bit. We'll get more into this guy here in a minute. What I want to focus on here is Rogue. Because what's interesting... Now, real quick, I want to put a little antidote here. I think Rogue's eyes are green, right? They're either green or brown. I always forget, but it's one of those two colors. So let's keep this in mind. Now let's read this real quick together. The Citadel Magistrate Headquarters. All they did was touch her. Rude hands, ruder glances, taunting promises of worse to come. She couldn't stop them. For so long she dreamed of being able to touch another person without her powers absorbing her psyche. To hold, to caress, to kiss, just like any other normal teenage girl. In those dreams, it was the most beautiful moments. She never imagined being handled against her will. Small wonder then her response was to withdraw as deeply into her mind as it's possible to go. The lowest depths of her primal subconscious. And I love how Rogue just kind of stands here in this very noir Dutch angle. And she goes, cheesy neighborhood. Thought I had more class. This so reminds me, and I don't know if you guys feel the same, but this reminds me of, I can't remember the girl's name, but the punk rocker from Dream Warriors, the Nightmare Before Elm Street. And we come to find out that the reason that this has this very scummy look about it is we see all these echoes emerge. She goes, these are all the people I've ever absorbed, but the effects are only temporary. How can y'all still be inside my head? Stolen powers and memories fade, Liebchen, but there's a psychic residue, sort of like scar tissue, that'll never be rid of us. We're all a part of you now, Jean joked. No! And before she can get attacked, Carol Danvers in her mind comes to her rescue. You phantoms want her? You'll have to deal with me first. Carol! But those others, they're like ghosts. You're as solid as me. They're residual memories, psychic leftovers. I don't know if I can ever forgive you for what you did to me, but we're both of us stuck inside your head for the rest of your life. What hurts you hurts me, and I won't have that. Especially with Wolverine in danger as well. I can help, Rogue. This is my kind of caper. You'll let me. You want to take over. I have to. And afterwards, what's to prevent you staying in charge? I'd be within my rights. You stole me, memories, powers, personality, permanently from my rightful body. As much as murdered me, why shouldn't I take control of yours? I didn't mean to. It was an accident. I only meant for it to be temporary like the others, but things got out of hand. You fought hard. I was fighting for my life. There's no other way, Rogue. You'll have to trust me. When Rogue opens her eyes, remember I mentioned her eyes? I love how we get a close-up of Carol here. And she opens her eyes and they're blue. Magistrates come to have more time with Rogue. And she says, the engineer here says, don't bother, all the security cameras have been disabled for the time being. She goes, how considerate. Remind me to thank you, the pair of you. And so we just see Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, now in control of Rogue's body, ripping through these magistrates. She gets a hold of Logan. She's like, he's not playing possum. He's really hurt. She doesn't realize that he doesn't have his power, so the adamantium is slowly killing him. And then again, the engineer's son finds out about his fiancée. And guys, I didn't realize, going back through this, how deep this was and how Genosha was really an important part during this era and why the Executioner song hit the way it did and what happened with everything that we will eventually be getting into. So if you guys want some great action, beautiful artwork, awesome X-Men, the way that they're supposed to sound, the way that they should be written, check out Uncanny X-Men 236. Marc Silvestri's artwork's awesome. And then, of course, Chris Claremont heading it up. And I love the cover. Not because Rogue and Logan are hung upside down, but it just kind of encompasses what Genosha is about. We get this photograph, kind of like a hunter's photo. Magistrates 2, Mutants 0. And so you can see right now that the X-Men don't exactly have the greatest track record trying to take these people. So if you've enjoyed what you've seen, please first and foremost support your local comic shop or where it is like to get your action figures and comics, and either grab the collected trade, or if you can get your hands on it, the individual floppies, because this is definitely one you want in your collection if you are an X-Men. So with all that said, you wouldn't mind hitting that fancy little Genoshan bell. Next, subscribe. That way I can upload content. You guys get notified. Come to the channel. I love talk with you and hearing your thoughts and feedback down in the comments or the socials, which I'll make sure that the links down in the description. And with all that said, hope you all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting.